Coming up today on David versus Goliath, the Yoda of yoga. That's hard to say.
You know, my goal is global wellness through play, so let's go.
You're taking on that giant, that Goliath, and I hope you win.
Welcome to today's episode of David versus Goliath, a podcast dedicated to helping small businesses leverage technology to not only help them compete against their large competitors, but win. Your host is currently the CEO of Anthem Business Software, a three-time Inc. 500 recipient, and a serial entrepreneur with a passion to help small businesses everywhere find, serve, and keep more customers profitably. Please join me in welcoming your host, Adam DeGraide.
Hey everyone, it's Adam DeGraide with another fantastic episode of the David versus Goliath podcast. Today we have Bobbi Hamilton, the CEO of Chi Universe. This is a fascinating interview and a fascinating product. You're going to really enjoy it. Today's episode is brought to you by AutomateMySocial.com, where you can automate, if you're a business, up to 99%, 99% of all your social media for the rest of your life and never have to think about it. And then just customize the little bit that you need to customize on a regular basis. It's a life changer. You can take the tour at AutomateMySocial.com, save thousands of dollars. Stop the madness today with AutomateMySocial.com. You can also visit us online at DavidVSGoliathPodcast.com. There you can subscribe to receive our newsletters and to get updates on the podcast. And you can also apply to be on the podcast. Well, with no further ado, let's get right into it today with Bobbi Hamilton. Bobbi, welcome to the David versus Goliath podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
I was thinking about starting the episode today with me like in this pose, you know, the yoga pose. If you know anything about me, Bobbi, I'm not a yoga expert by any stretch of the imagination. I think the last time I stretched was 1973, a couple of years after I was born. And, but I definitely could learn a lot. I was intrigued. I had an interview back for the watchers and listeners with a gentleman by the name of Tom Dusenberry, several weeks back. It was great. And he's into games, as you know. And as we just were talking, hanging out, we were just, he's on your board. Now this is all making sense.
Right.
And we were just talking afterwards. He's like, I got somebody that I think would be a great interview. And I checked out your product. The product's pretty cool. Just for the watchers and the listeners, it's Chi Universe. Chi Universe.
Oh, okay.
Right there. Oh.
Yeah, show that one. Yes.
Oh no, my producer's gonna show much better shots than that. But it's Chi Universe, everyone. And I thought it was interesting because at the end of the day, what you've got is a scenario where you're almost taking a Twister style concept from what I could see, and then turning it into something fun that families can do and learn about yoga. So why don't you tell them a little bit about Chi Universe, and then we're going to get into how you started Chi Universe and what led you to do it in the first place.
Sure. So Chi Universe, essentially our featured product is the Chi Yoga Mat and Game. And it has a symbol system on the yoga mat, which actually properly aligns the body and it gamifies yoga. So the symbol system is based on the principles of alignment and anatomical averages. So we have a kid size and we have a tween adult size. And the symbols on the mat, gamify the product and really engage students for longer. And so you match the symbols on the mat with the symbols in the how-to poster that comes with it, or the symbols in the video instruction or in the game app. So you look at the images and you see the symbols, and then you try to mimic the pose on the mat using the proper symbols. And then you use your focused breathing to count how long you're in the pose.
I could use this. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm starting to feel like the older I get, I probably could use a little bit of yoga in my life. My wife loves yoga. She does yoga from time to time.
Great.
She does a lot of Pilates and things like that. And it's everything I can do to get out of bed in the morning and just power up and sit at the piano, play some guitar, do my podcast, have some fun. And my biggest problem is that I'm always on a computer, right? So in our world today, I'm either sitting in front of a camera and a microphone, or I'm doing work on, or I'm playing piano, or I'm playing guitar. I'm sitting down a lot. So I think it's fantastic. And my producer, while you were describing that, was showing the watchers and the listeners some of the imagery, because it really is fun. Now, it also comes with an app. I noticed that, which was interesting. So you give away a free app on the iPad and the Android?
Yes. Currently, our iTunes app is a 10-level game, and it coordinates with the one side of the poster that comes inside of the yoga mat. And so you can earn chi points, and you work for your chi points, and it's pretty adorable, actually. But one of the things that's really exciting is that we are working towards expanding our game tech and fit tech now. So we're raising capital to expand our digital offerings. So it's interesting. You start a business, you have a vision, and then it sort of takes on a life of its own, So I love the fact that we're going to be continuing to grow and build this thing out. My goal is global wellness through play. So let's go. We got to go bigger.
I like global wellness through play. Now, for the watchers and listeners that maybe have heard the term gamification or haven't, let me try to help them understand what that means. So years ago, I built CRM, and this was early in the days of gamification, where softwares tried to put an element of fun to get you to do key tasks that you needed to do. So one of the things that we did, Bobbi, was we created a game that for every insurance agent that gathered email addresses and input them into the software, they would get gamification points. And then they would run contests inside of the agency. Whoever could get the highest number of emails into the system would qualify. And there was different tiers and different badges that they would win. And then at the end of the month, our company gave away to the top producer and the top agency within our network of insurance agencies at the time, a $150 Starbucks card or, Amazon card. I can't remember what it was. And that was the early days of trying to get people to have fun. So when Bobbi says that she's taken yoga and she's gamified it, she literally means that. What she means is that yoga is a game that you can play as you get fit and get well, because the game itself makes it more interactive and interesting. Now, how did you come up with the idea? And then, B, what gave you the courage and the ability to take that step and start it? How did that all, tell the listeners and the watchers the evolution of how you ended up where we are today?
Sure. Well, originally I came up with the idea while I was teaching. I've been a yoga teacher for a long time. And at that point, I was at the Venice Public Library teaching yoga to children. And there happened to be a little girl who just couldn't follow me visually or auditorily. And so there was a Sharpie just randomly laying on the ground, and I ran over. I brought all the mats for the children. So I ran over and I started drawing symbols and pointed to teach her how to use the symbols. And then, her body was in perfect position. And, I did that because when she was trying, it looked like she was going to injure herself. So really I was trying to prevent injury. And that's really what the principles of alignment do. They prevent injury, they increase safety, but it engages the user. So when I stepped back and saw this little girl in perfect position, I realized okay, this could really be something. And, I just went off into the process, working on the design and development, and the rest is history. It was a labor of love, really.
I could imagine if I was trying yoga for the first time, I would be the person that you'd be highly concerned is going to injure himself as I try to contort my body in ways that have never been contorted. And it's always, I love how ideas are formed and where you see need, and the spirit of the entrepreneur that lives in a lot of people that watch and listen to this podcast is we see a problem. We can clearly see the solution. And then there's a step between seeing the problem, seeing the solution, and actually doing it. Mm-hmm. So when you took your first stab at a mat, how long did it take you before you got to the place now where you feel like, I've got this thing down, this makes sense, the users of the product, understand it, can use it well? Mm-hmm. How long was that evolution from concept to completion, and how many years, months of time in development did that take?
Oh my gosh, it was extensive. It was an extensive research and development process. I'd never built a product before. I had built a video before. I had this. So out of college, I was a medical researcher, and I did learn about the childhood obesity epidemic at that time. And I did want to create programming to help children, because understanding the implications of obesity and cancer was something that I really wanted to tackle. So, I had been an athlete my whole life. I was a springboard and platform diver for UC Berkeley. And I wanted to use my skills to innovate movement for children. I didn't know what I was doing, and I created a first product that was a video product, and it ended up getting turned into yoga breaks. And on PBS stations across the US for years, they ran these yoga breaks, and I ended up normalizing yoga for children. And
that's great.
Thank you. And so, which is like another story of like where I ended up, because I didn't have enough IP at the time and really lost my innovation to other people. And so, when I started the development process for the yoga mat and game, I was very serious about doing the IP for it. And so not only was I learning how to develop a product, I was also, spending money on patents and trademarks and copyrights. And I just want to say, as a small time, business owner, I literally, at times, I was sleeping on my girlfriend's floor to be able to pay for the patents. And that always really embarrassed me. And I never wanted to tell anybody. And then when I heard
No, you should not be embarrassed by that. As a matter of fact, more people that are watching and listening that are considering starting a business need to understand that, right? Just because you have a board of directors now that has the former CEO of Hasbro Interactive on it, that doesn't happen overnight. That happens with a lot of sweat, tears, blood, and in some cases, sleeping on your family, relatives, or friends' couch for a period of time to pay for it. So did you bootstrap the whole business to start yourself? Were you funding it exclusively yourself?
Yeah, I was. I bootstrapped it, and then I had an advisor teach me how to sell equity in my business. So that was another learning curve where I had to learn and also have enough courage to be able to raise capital. And I raised small amounts in the beginning, 10 grand or 20 grand at a time, just to keep it going and to keep building it. And so that, it was a huge learning process. It was not.
What was that? Bobbi, you strike me as someone that, and don't take this the wrong way, doesn't have the killer instincts. I have no problem putting my foot on someone's throat and saying, you should do this, but that's my personality, right? It's very gregarious. It's very outgoing. It's very confident. You strike me as someone who's very reflective, someone who's very patient, very kind. How difficult was it for you? Not that I'm not kind, by the way. If people know me, that they can tell I'm a decent guy for the most part. But was it very difficult for you to do that? And did it take several times? Because there's a lot of people right now watching and listening that have that personality, that have your personality, but they have great ideas. And they can't get to the next step because they're afraid. They're locked in fear on asking that person for money and how to be confident when their nature is to be, think about it. Take the weekend. Talk to this person. No, at some point, somebody's going to say, are we doing this or not? So how was that, transition for you from not raising money or asking for the money to where you are now?
That's a really good question because I wasn't confident. My first property, I took an investment for Animal Yoga, the one that was on PBS Kids. And, I lost that property, and it was a really hard learning experience for me. And, over time, what I began to realize.
Somebody trademarked it? Somebody stole it from you and trademarked it? They realized you didn't trademark it?
Yeah, they stole my property. They stole the whole concept. They recreated it exactly the way I made it. I couldn't get anybody to fund that. Once I had taken my first $75,000 that I had raised as early 20s, and I wasn't able to pay it back. And that was devastating to me. So I didn't feel confident taking money, but also, I had been told by people, well, you're a woman, and when you fail once, it's harder for you to raise money. And I had to overcome a lot. I had to really overcome, what other people told me, and also what was inside of myself. And I was a bit shy, and, I was a trainer. I drove all over LA. I worked for huge business executives. And one time I had this female business executive in finance say to me, and she loved me, and she would say to me, whatever you are doing for my children, like, you're a godsend, like, they're happy and focused when you leave, they do their homework, and I would train her and her children. And one day she said to me, why would anybody fund your business? You can't even ask me for the money I owe you. And that was like a really big wake up for me. And so I had to.
That's definitely tough. That's tough. So hold on. I want you to hold that thought because I'm getting a red light from my producer that says I'm over on break here. So I need to take a break. But when we come back, I want to continue right where we left off. The fact that you couldn't even ask her for the money that she owed you for her own kids. It's a good question. You're with Bobbi Hamilton and Adam DeGraide, your handsome host of the David versus Goliath podcast. Here's a very important message from AutomateMySocial.com. We'll be right back.
Do you own a business? Do you have or need a social media presence? If you are like most businesses, you spend either no time or too much time and money on your social media strategy, spending thousands of dollars per month only to get mediocre and inconsistent results. This leads to frustration and, in some cases, sleepless nights. Introducing AutomateMySocial.com. Automate 90% of your social media and never have to think about it again. That's right. Automate your business's social media posting and strategy like forever. Automate the essentials and customize only what's needed. Save time, save money, and get better results with AutomateMySocial.com. Our patent-pending technology gives you the ability to automatically create your social post and distribute them immediately, like in seconds, across all your social media platforms. Stop the madness of paying someone to create, post, and manage your strategy, and let our software do the work, so you don't have to. Oh, and if you're an agency or social media manager, you too can let our software do all the work, and you can get all the credit. It will be our little secret. With AutomateMySocial.com, you can have it all. It's easy to use, never complains, and never asks for time off or more benefits. See this amazing new software application at AutomateMySocial.com. If you own a business or manage client social media and want to save time, energy, money, all while increasing your return on investment, then let's get this party started at AutomateMySocial.com.
And we're back with Bobbi, the yoga master, the yoga guru, really the Yoda of yoga. Wait, the Yoda of yoga. That's hard to say. Try that. The Yoda of yoga. I actually think that's going to be the title of this week's episode, the Yoda of yoga. I like that. It's really good. So, you were just talking about raising funds and how you had this powerful female executive who you were impacting their kids in such a powerful way. She loved it. The kids were doing great. She owed you some money and she said, how can you ever run a business? Why would I ever give you money if you can't even ask me for the money I already owe you? Mm-hmm. How did she handle that?
Well, it did take some deep contemplation after that, and I knew that I needed to overcome some of the beliefs that I held inside of myself. But really what did it in the end is that I believe so fully in the wellness effects of yoga therapy, and I really want to create change. I really wanted to give this to the world and help people. And when I saw it as something even bigger than myself, and that, why would I hold back something that could contribute to the well-being of people in the world, that, I had to get out of my own way. And so I started, raising money, also through the magic, I swear, of meditation. It literally, I would meditate and then I would get really focused. This is how you do it. So you get into meditation, and once you're within the oneness, then you ask the universe for what you want. And the universe would put me right next to the person that would end up investing in me. It was unbelievable. The magic that ensued to help me develop this business really came through my deep desire, through meditation, asking the universe to be guided. And I would literally just be put right next to the person who would overhear me talking about my business to my parents or something. And they would be like, oh, who are you? Can you tell me more? And so, it took a lot of, magic from the universe to help me realize this thing. But, as I did end up getting the hang of it over time, and I was able to, bring in an investor at one point who became a main investor for me to get me through to a level where it just became undeniable that this product was a hit. And,
that's awesome.
The kids loved it, and parents loved it, and the press loved it. And, and I'm at that point now where I'm so confident that I have such a great product that there's really nothing, anybody could say to me to discourage me.
Yeah, that it's not an easy journey to get there. It's funny, you talk about becoming one with the universe. For me, it's I spend a lot of time in prayer. So for me, it's if I'm not feeling something, inside, to me, I get before the Lord for myself, and I pray and I say, God, give me wisdom, give me the right direction you want me to walk into. And I'll tell you, man, without doing that, I feel like I'd be walking, blind. And sometimes you can react too quickly or not quickly enough if you're not, to your point, centered with what's important to you in your life. And it makes a lot of difference. So now you're at a place now where you have powerful former CEOs on your board. Mm-hmm. I've been in those board meetings myself. I've sold, I'm on my fourth business now. I've sold 3. A couple of them I've had boards on. Not a big fan of boards in a lot of ways, because I'm kind of like a free spirit. And it's kind of like there's I'm not a big fan of lawyers. I'm not a big fan of dentists. I'm not a big fan of doctors. I'm not a big fan of boards, because all of these things tell me what not to do. And to me, it's I always fight myself. It drives me crazy trying to restrain my own natural instincts. But they can be very helpful. They can also be very hurtful. In your experience with your board now, so obviously to have those type of caliber people on your board, you must be doing well. So congratulations.
Yeah.
What are those board meetings like for you now? What are the primary things behind the scenes? You don't have to get into the non-disclosure piece of it, but you're having a board meeting, you're having difficult conversations. Is it mostly vision casting? Is it more relationship driven board members? Is it a blend of both? Tell the watchers and the listeners a little bit about the life of a board meeting for you right now at Chi Universe.
Sure. Well, like we were discussing, Tom Dusenberry is on the board, and he's a visionary. He brought in the highest earning acquisition in the history of Hasbro. And, I trust him very much. But I also have some other very solid people. And often a board meeting will be, strategizing, or it'll be like, okay, I have this person or I have this opportunity. How do we close the deal on it? Can you guide me in what I need to say and do? This is where we're at, and help me get to the next evolution of it. So, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I just had to file a first lawsuit against an infringer, a major retailer. And I literally maybe would not have had the courage to do it if I didn't have my board members.
Yeah, exactly.
So I needed that. It's a very scary process. And I don't know if you've ever had to go through the process of like obtaining an attorney or like fighting. This is David.
Bobbi, I have about 30 attorneys at any given moment that I work with. It's funny you mentioned this. My buddy who owns a business had a client of his owed him about $90,000, and he fronted the money for this client, and he had to, for the first time in his life, get an attorney. It's never comfortable, but it is only if you have IP and you have contracts to protect your IP, and somebody infringes on that, there's only one way to make sure that your contract is enforceable and you're doing the right thing. It's not ever fun. It's never fun. I'll tell you that, whether you're suing or you're being sued, but it is the cost of doing business, unfortunately, in the year 2022. It reminds me of the Back to the Future episode where they were talking about how, the justice system was working so much more swiftly. And he said, well, how do they do that? He goes, well, they abolished lawyers because lawyers can definitely take up a lot of time. Yes. But, I would just encourage you to trust them. Your board members who have gone before you in that aspect have wisdom in that aspect, and you got to defend yourself, and you got to fight for what's yours. And that doesn't mean that they can't use the idea. They just got to pay you for it.
Right. I know. Exactly. Just pay me for it. So going through this process, I want to talk about this as a David and Goliath, podcast, because first of all, what I realized in going up against a major retailer is that it is so difficult to even get to the process of suing them.
There's so many layers.
There's so many layers, and it's so exhausting. I mean, I was waking up, first of all, going through the discovery of being infringed and counterfeited and trying to get them to stop selling was a nightmare in itself. Okay. But then going through the process of trying to get an attorney, a nightmare in itself. I was literally waking up and smashing my pillow against the wall. Like, it's not like waking up and meditating, it's not like I had to really work with myself to get through this process because it was
smashing the wall in the middle of the night might have led you to believe that you were not completely at one with the universe at that moment. You were at war and you didn't know it.
Yes, and it's just disheveling, and it's so difficult. It's one of the reasons why I just became determined to get a lawsuit filed, because what I realized in going through this difficult process is that it's actually a business model for large retailers to steal from small businesses, because it is so difficult to go through the process of fighting.
And they know that you don't have the stomach. Most people don't have the stomach to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's a business model. And that's why I'm fighting for small businesses now, because what ended up happening for me was, I was interviewing 15 different law firms. And then it was such a difficult process that I literally called Berkeley Law. I went to Berkeley and I was like, well, maybe if I just call Berkeley. So I called Berkeley Law. I left them a voicemail. They didn't even call me back. And they put out 2 calls into the network. And I got calls from a male attorney and a female attorney who went to Berkeley.
Great.
Who do you think rescued me?
I don't know.
The female attorney. And
Those dirty men. Those dirty men.
No, I'm just saying, I'm making a point. But what my larger point is this. I am privileged to have had that education and to have that school call and make a call for me into the network. And they rescued me because the law firm that ended up writing the complaint is impeccable. Getting to this point was so incredibly hard that it made me realize, like, okay, well, given this privilege, it is my duty to fight for small business. We are the backbone of America. And, it's like, you like the product? Pay for it. What I ended up realizing is
that's my whole point. It's like, okay, great. If you like the product, no big deal. I have the IP on it. It's mine. All you gotta do is give me a little piece of it. We'll be fine.
So what I've learned in the process in, building a small business and doing all the research and development is that, people like me, designers and people pay for these educations, and then they spend their time building their life work for something that they think they're contributing to society. And then what ends up happening is these large companies usurp them, and then they leave the small business holding the development debt. Mm-hmm. And then the larger company ends up making all the profits off of the smaller company. And I'm here to say no. Like, you can't do this to American small businesses. This is the American dream. And you don't get to cut us out and kill us. I mean,
by the way, and that's one of the things that they need to fix, by the way, is intellectual property rights in other countries as well, too, because the world's very global now, especially with a product like yourself. And if you have a global patent, it's got to be enforced. And I don't know how to do it because I'm not smart enough to figure that out. But I love the fact that you are fighting for small business. You're taking on that giant, that Goliath. And I hope you win, because so often in my life, they always say that, theft is flattery if you're a great idea. But at some point, theft is just theft. And someone's going to pay for it. And this has been great. Well, we got to take another break from another amazing sponsor, Bobbi. And when we come back, we'll have our last and final segment. This has been so much fun with Bobbi Hamilton. You're learning about the smackdown that's about to happen legally with her and that large retailer who will remain anonymous on this program. But we are so grateful to have you watching and listening. Stay tuned for another important message. We'll be right back.
At ISU RMAC Agency, we want to be your one responsible source for all of your insurance needs. From a rocket engineer in California to several hospitals in Illinois, our personal lines team specializes in hard-to-place risks and high-net-worth clientele. With 2 locations and 20-plus agents, we can write in all 50 states to better serve our clients with needs in multiple states. Family-owned and operated since 1962, and 4 generations carrying on the tradition of insurance. Celebrating our 60th year in the industry, we are truly proud of where we have come from and where we are going. With over 300 carriers nationwide, our agency can offer individuals and businesses more choices and better prices. ISU RMAC brings a wide variety of solutions to the table. For more information, visit us online at www.isu-rmac.com.
On the David versus Goliath podcast with the yoga master Bobbi and your handsome host, Adam DeGraide, on the David versus Goliath podcast. And you are taking these people to the mat, no pun intended, This is actually exciting information, and it's valuable conversation that we're having. It's not a comfortable one, but it's a very valuable one because many small businesses and inventors and creators and people that come up with trademarks and they get them, they struggle with this, and theft is a real problem. And your story, Bobbi, I guarantee is encouraging someone right now who is watching and listening. And for that, we thank you. And we wish you the best. We really do. We always want the good guys to win here on David versus Goliath. And at the end, just make sure you take the sword out and slice its head off. That's what David did in the Old Testament. And hold it up for the world to see. But anyway, so now at Chi Universe, back to a little bit more fun things. Okay. You know, you've got the yoga mat, you got families doing yoga together, you got people getting healthy, you got people learning how to breathe. I could learn that. I'm terrible at it. But at the end of the day, this is valuable and fun information. How large is your business right now? How many people work alongside of you on a daily basis, from manufacturing to shipping to everything right now in Chi Universe?
Wow, a number. I don't know if I could give you a number, but yes.
I guess.
I probably have like 20 people around me working on this. You know, there's a lot of moving parts, and, you know, you have to learn every part of the business that you're going through. And, you know, it's just a evolution of development. You know, like I was saying earlier, we are at a place where we're looking to expand and grow now and create more of an e-learning and digital fit tech offering.
I love it.
Thanks. You know, and, you know, I mean, there's so many different people who've come together to put this project into such a cool state, you know, even down to the Chi character. You know, Chi, our flying squirrel logo character, was designed by a veteran Disney animator. Yeah. And so, you know, I've collected so much talent along the way. So and I love talent. I love talent so much. I love working with talent. You know, my passion really is the research and the development and the teaching and creating the assets. And, you know, I love working with the people that take it to the next step and seeing who falls into like my path on the next step. That's one of my favorite things. You know, like I said, we are trying to create greater global wellness. And, you know, the yoga therapy is such a huge aspect to it. It's really the reason why I'm doing it, because not only does it make you feel well physically, but more than anything, coming out of this pandemic, I'm realizing like the mental and emotional wellness aspects of the yoga therapy are so incredibly important as people are suffering, as children are, you know, registering as the highest anxiety levels of all time. You know, people are really suffering. And, you know, if we can just include a few wellness techniques into our life, like, you know, 2 or 3 breathing wellness techniques, or, you know, just even like 5 yoga positions that you love, just having a handful of collected materials that will make you feel better will shift you mentally and emotionally. And, you know, we're trying to come out of a time that has created such emotional and mental strife for people. And, you know, what I'm saying is let's move into wellness as a world people. You know, how do we feel better now, you know? And so we, you know, simply teach that to kids and parents and kids and families and adults and teenagers. You know, how to feel better in 1 breath. And I can do it with you now. How to get more focused with 3 breaths. You know, how to do even a sitting yoga pose to take some pain out of your back and to get comfortable in order to be able to focus. Do you want to do
I gotta tell you, I gotta have you back on. And for a little fun episode we'll do where you can instruct the watchers and listeners on DVG on 5 yoga poses, and I will try to perform them. on camera
Okay.
for everyone to see. That would be a lot of hoot. I do have a question though. This is not to get political in any stretch of the imagination, but you're saying something that I'm hearing the exact opposite a lot of in the media now, which is the celebration of unhealthy body masses, unhealthy body, and so you can't tell people that they're out of shape anymore and that they can have their lives better because we're almost celebrating that as a culture. Have you seen that? I think it's detrimental for people. People are proud of the fact that they're out of shape. I'm out of shape and I don't like it. Like I want to get better. I want to be in better shape. But for me to say that, people are like, oh no, you're fine. Be comfortable with yourself. No, I don't want to be comfortable with myself. I want to be the best version of myself. Yes. And has that been a challenge for you at all with that societal message that they're trying to push on us?
I don't see the message in that way. What the message that I see is what people are trying to say is stop shaming us. So chi is your life force energy. And I think that when you're alive, when you have the good fortune of that spark of life within your body, that is beautiful. And I am for body positivity and I am against shaming people. People are really suffering because of the food and the agriculture that we're, being forced to eat.
That's my point. That's my point.
Have no idea the amount of genetically modified canola oil in their food. This is painful for people. And
they're trying to do more of it, Bobbi. They're not just trying to do less of it. They're trying to make more of that stuff for us in the future.
That's why we have to wake up as a culture and a people and basically say, we can't have this in our food anymore. And I don't want to be shamed for my body. I don't feel comfortable in it. So it's not about shaming. It's about accepting people as they are and then giving them the tools to feel better, which is what to cut out in the diet. A lot of it is not people's fault. They don't know what they're consuming. And it's about creating awareness so that people will stop consuming certain foods that are poisoning them. And it's about creating energy. It can be really difficult for people to get their body moving. When I've been injured or when I've been completely beaten down by getting into a lawsuit with somebody who's stealing from me, I've had no energy. And it's about giving people tangible steps to getting into physical movement, to using the breath from small movements into effective fitness movements. We want to help people go in the right direction. We don't want to shame people. And I'm on board with this. It's like, I'm so done with controlling people and shaming people. I just want people to go, no matter what, I am grateful for my life force and my body, and I'm going to do what I can to cultivate feeling well. And today, maybe that's only 20, minutes of focused breathing or a walk around the neighborhood. What can I do with the amount of energy that I have, and how can I build my energy and my life force to create more strength, to create more endurance, to create greater physical fitness?
I love it. I love it. I think it's interesting because at the end of the day, you have to make those small steps. Although I will say, Bobbi, this is just Adam's personal opinion. A little bit of shame goes a long way. And by the way, hold on. What I mean by that, I'm talking about myself now, by the way. I'm not talking about shaming other people. I'm talking about when I look in the mirror and I'm like, dear God, what have I done? The pandemic's killed me. I put all these pounds on. That to me is a healthy thing because I'm saying, okay, I'm not happy with myself. Therefore, it's affecting how I feel. It's affecting what I do. It's affecting my energy levels. And I want to work on it. And I have been working on it. And I think that that's really, really important. It's not about where you are. It's about where you're going.
Yes.
And you could be in the worst place physically or the best place physically. And they're both missions are the same. How do we get better? That is really the idea. And when it comes down to business, it's the same thing. It's like your business might be, for lack of a better word, fat, bloated, out of shape, tired, right? You got to put some life back into that thing. It's not about where you are. It's about where you're going and the steps you can take every day as a business leader and a business owner and as an entrepreneur, an aspiring entrepreneur to get there. It's one step at a time. Like Bob Wiley said in What About Bob? Baby steps. Baby step out the door. Baby step on the bus. Baby steps. And before you know it, you're in Lake Winnipesaukee. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. For those of you who have ever seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Bobby's looking at me like, what on earth is he talking about? It's a movie called What About Bob with Bill Murray. It's one of my favorite movies in the world. And you too can end up on a boat strapped to it, just like Bill Murray was, one step at a time. Now, in closing, there are people right now that are stuck. They're stuck in their life personally, and they're stuck in their business professionally. What advice do you give them that they can do right now? So they stop watching this podcast. What is the one thing they can do to get themselves going in that positive direction from your perspective?
I would say take the time to shut down your electronics. Sit and take some breathing. And as you breathe into your body and breathe into your own success. Breathe into yourself and start believing in yourself and start envisioning where you want to get to. And, get so clear on what you need and where you want to go that the universe will just start help putting it in place for you. And when you come out of that, call your friends and family, because we are so separate from each other right now. And we don't pick up the phone and we don't spend the time with the people who support us and love us. And so I think we need to hold each other and encourage each other and then just, build up your courage to make the calls that you need to do and to write down your goals. I'm a firm believer in manifest destiny. And I think when you write them, when you envision them, when you sit with them, when you write them down, like they really start to materialize in your life. And
there's no doubt about it. There's power in that. There's no doubt about the fact that you can absolutely, both positively and negatively, feed your life.
Yes.
And the question is what are you feeding yourself, with positivity or negativity? Yes. Bobbi is 100% the yoga master. You know it. She's as smart as Yoda. We can hear it right now in her voice. Has anybody ever called you the Yoda of yoga?
No, but I am the chi master.
I love it. I'm telling you, I hope you'll take me up on that. There's going to be this, just for you to know this. I don't even know if you know this, Bobbi. I believe you're the 52nd episode of David versus Goliath, which means that I've been doing this for a year.
Cool.
And for the watchers and listeners, I'm going to be doing an episode, but I want to wait till I'm back in my main studio in a few weeks. So it's going to be a little bit after the year. And for the year anniversary, watchers and listeners, you know who I'm going to interview? Me. Oh. I'm going to interview myself.
What?
And so I'm going to take the whole episode, ask myself the questions, and then answer them just like I was a guest. Because a lot of people ask me, Adam, I know a little bit about your story, but tell me a little bit more about your story.
I'll
but Bobbi,
interview you, Adam.
That's sweet of you. I really appreciate it. I think it'll be funnier if I interview myself. So now, Bobbi, have you had a good time today on the David versus Goliath podcast?
You know what? I have. You're a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
How can people find you, find your product?
So you can check us out on Chi Universe. That's spelled CHI, like Chi, life force energy, chiuniverse.com. And you can find us, join our community on Instagram at Chi Universe Yoga. We have so many cool, fit-minded parents and adults, joining in the conversation and contributing clips on movement. We have some challenges and some giveaways. And we're building out our social media some more this year. So look around for us, Chi Universe.
I love it. Chi Universe. Everyone together. Breathe. And then out. This has been another amazing episode of the David versus Goliath podcast. Bobbi, thank you so much for joining me.
Much,
watchers and listeners, You can't learn about things like this on any other podcast. We have so much diversity here. It is such a blast to interview these men and women here, to learn about what they're doing and how they're slaying their own Goliath right here in the David versus Goliath podcast. I'll see you next week. Everyone have an awesome day.
Anthem Business Software System is designed to specifically help small businesses just like yours find, serve, and keep more customers profitably. We do this by providing you with the most powerful software, automations, and marketing services to help your business compete and win in this ever-changing digital world. Take a short video tour at anthemsoftware.com.